Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. For those of you who are new here, thank you guys for clicking on this video, and for my returning subscribers, thank you guys for staying on this journey with me. I'm actually really excited to do this video. This is a topic of conversation that I have a lot with some of my female friends or some of my male friends. Essentially what I'm going to be talking about in this video is staying and settling. The first thing that I want to get out of the way is a little disclaimer, and that's just to say that I am here for relationships, I'm here for marriage. The Bible says that two are better than one, that he who finds a wife finds a good thing. However, I believe that it is a good thing with the right person, and we're gonna get into that. Like I said before, one of the reasons I wanted to do this video, talk about this topic a lot with my friends, but also something kind of cropped up the other day and I was like, maybe I should do a video on this. I was in the car and a song came on. I think this song came out when I was like 14, 15. It is Ashanti Foolish. Now, I've listened to this song so many times, but I just found myself singing, and literally the other day I was driving and I was deep in the lyrics and I was like, is everything okay, sis? This is what stood out to me. She says, see, my days are cold without you, but I'm hurting while I'm with you, and though my heart can't take no more, I keep on running back to you. And then in the last paragraph, she says, boy, I gave you all my heart and all you did was tear it up. Looking out my window, knowing that I should go. Even when I pack my bags, there's something always holds me back. It kind of just got me thinking, so your heart is being torn up. You're hurting whilst you're with someone. And even though you can't take it anymore, to the point that you've packed your bags, there's something that causes you to stay. And it kind of got me thinking, why do we do this? Not even just as sisters, but even brothers. Why do we do this? Why do we settle or stay in something that we know isn't necessarily right for us and that we deserve better? So that's what we're going to be talking about in this video. Basically what I've done is I've put a little list together of reasons why I believe that people stay in a relationship or that they settle, and then in the second part of the video we're going to look at the dangers of doing this. So the first thing I've discovered, or I've even seen in my own life when people stay, why they settle, is because of this fear of getting too old. Now, we live in this society where the whole thing is get married, have kids by the age of 30. I don't know where this came from. I don't know who invented it. I don't know who was like, yeah, this is the benchmark. So what you find is that people who are in their 30s or nearing 30 and they're like, okay, I've got to settle down, I'm getting too old, my biological clock is ticking, I'm just gonna settle here, or I'm just gonna stay in this thing even though it's not necessarily right for me. So I think that's one of the first things. The second thing is loneliness. I don't know if you guys saw but when we went into lockdown, there were these memes that were flying around on social media. It was check on your extroverted friends and your single friends, and it was seen as it's a big thing. And I've even spoken to people who were they're in a relationship but they didn't necessarily want to be with that person, but then lockdown happened and they were like, oh, I'm bored, so I'm just gonna stay with this person. So I think loneliness is another area. The third thing that I've seen is just people not really realizing or knowing their value. I think if you have low self-esteem and you don't have a lot of confidence, there is kind of room for you to be okay, I'm just gonna stay in this thing because maybe I can't do any better, maybe I can't get better, so I'm just gonna stay in this thing even though it doesn't feel right, even though if anything it's eroding more of my self-esteem. I don't believe I can get better than this, so I'm gonna stay here. And then lastly, and again, this isn't an exhaustive list, this is just things I've seen over time, people believe that they can change a person. And just an example where it's you've got with someone and you know, for example, that you want to be married, and you've got with someone and you've had the conversation and they're like, you know what, I actually don't want to get married. But now you're like, okay, but maybe I can change them. Maybe I can change their mind. Maybe I can do something in order to change them to fit with what I want. I can change them. So I think that's another reason. So now, like, what I'm gonna do is talk about like the dangers of staying and the dangers of settling. Just to give you guys a bit of context, so I myself am single. I'm 33. I do desire to be married. I do desire to have children. But over time, these are certain things that I have seen and even experienced within my own singleness. And this has kind of led me to see some of these dangers, and also just through like witnessing other people's marriages, other people's relationships, that I've kind of drawn some of these conclusions. So yeah, just kind of wanted to give you guys a bit of a background. So I've like written them down, kind of thought about them. First danger that I've kind of seen and I've experienced over time. So by staying or settling for something that isn't right for you, you end up on missing out on what is right for you. So I think sometimes it's like we're so afraid of being alone. We're so afraid of like, you know, like not having a person there or whatever, that you're like, you know what, I'm just gonna like settle for this thing. But in doing that, you miss the purpose that God has for your life. You're potentially missing out on your destiny. You're potentially missing out on a person that God has for you. So it's almost like by settling in something that isn't right for you, you're actually missing what is right for you. The second thing that the second danger that I've got written down is that by staying or settling, it means that you are more than likely to ignore the red flags that present themselves. So what do I mean by red flags? And this is your gut instinct. This is where like, you know inside that something isn't quite right, but you're gonna ignore it anyway, and you're just gonna like settle, you're gonna compromise. I'm gonna share like a little testimony. So I don't know if you guys have seen my previous video that I did on fatherlessness on Father's Day. If you haven't had a look, you can go back and watch it after this video. But I basically speak about my biological dad walking out on me twice. So he did it when I was younger and he did it again this year. So a couple of months ago, I had to have that very awkward conversation with my mum, where I basically had to tell her what had happened with my dad. She said two things that surprised me. The first thing she said was that she was shocked, not in his behaviour, but she was shocked that the same thing that he did to her all those years ago when they were married, he did to me. And the second thing she said was, I'm so sorry that my choice of man has now left you without a dad. And she said that and I was like, you know what, like wow, like how hard must that be for her as a mother to know? And my mum has been open about the red flags. She said she saw so many red flags whilst they were dating, even during the engagement process. My mum saw so many red flags, but because she didn't want to be on her own and because she wanted a child, she decided to ignore them. And she said, I'm so sorry that this has now led to you having an absent father. And I just thought, wow, like imagine now you, like, I don't blame my mum, but imagine now she has to walk around with that burden, because as a any parent would tell you that they feel guilt when it comes to their children. So now you're having to walk around with that, knowing that because you ignored the signs, your child now has to go through this process. Because now it's not just about you, it's not just about how the person treats you, but it's also about how that child is going to be treated. Your children are relying on you to pick the right relationships for an environment that is going to also be healthy for them to grow up in. And then lastly, again, this is not an exhaustive list, but these are some of the things I've seen over time. When you decide to settle or to stay in something that you know isn't right for you, you can lose your self-confidence and your self-esteem can become eroded. And this is what I wrote down. Because you are giving parts of yourself to someone that they were never meant to be able to take. Like even when like let's just let's just deep that. So when you are staying in something, okay, and when you are settling, You are giving parts of yourself to someone that they were never meant to be able to take. And that can lead to your self-confidence and your self-esteem becoming eroded. Now again, like, I understand the pressures of society, and this video isn't to judge anyone or to make you feel bad or whatever, but I understand the pressures. But at the same time, I feel like, and for me, like, and just to, again, to give an example of myself, so there are certain things that as a single person that I have had to go through as a single person. Now, if I'm completely honest with you, there are parts of my life where I have honestly been broken. There are things that have happened from my past that have left me in a very broken state. And I've had to go through a lot of healing in order to even get to this point that I'm at today, and I'm still on a journey. And I know that if I'd have been in a relationship, or if I'd have been married with all of these broken pieces, and this is the picture that I've got in my head, I would have picked up these broken pieces, I would have handed it to my spouse, and I would have said, you need to fix this. So what happens is you find yourself in a place where you're now expecting that person to be able to take all of these broken bits and fix it. You're now expecting somebody to come in and heal you, where you're the only person who can go through that healing process. You're the only person who can have that self-awareness. You're the only person who can come to that realization of how loved and how valued you are. And you're now placing that in someone else, and you're saying, I can't do this, I need you to do this for me. And that is such a heavy burden for somebody to carry. And again, I've seen examples of that where people have felt like they are broken, and there are certain things that they've gone through in their lives, and they have an expectation on somebody else to fix that brokenness, but that person can't carry that. Now, there's a difference between supporting you through something. There is a difference through helping you and encouraging you and being there for you as you're going through a process. That is different to you then telling them that they need to fix A, B, and C. And for me especially, I know that I was in a certain place where I would have expected somebody to heal those parts of me, whereas I needed to go through that process myself. Like I said, like, I fully understand this whole singleness thing, this thing of being like, you don't want to be alone, like another event that you go to alone, or another like family, yet another family get together, another birthday, another wedding, another something, another this, another that, and you're going alone. Like, I completely understand that. But I think for me, one of the things that I've realized is that my desire to be married and to have children doesn't trump my desire to be with the right person, if that makes sense. Like, I desire more to be in a right relationship that is aligned with purpose, that is aligned with vision, that is aligned with God's plan for my life, rather than having a child and being married. The former is far more important to me. And again, this didn't happen overnight, okay, because it didn't. Jesus has done a lot of work in my heart. He's done a lot of work in my life to get me to this point. So the Bible talks about being unequally yoked, and which basically means that you are with somebody, and I think I mentioned this earlier in the video, I can't remember if I did or not, but you're with somebody who isn't a Christian, and you're like, oh, okay, I can change them. So you're like, I can bring them to church, I can get them to the altar, I can get them to meet with God, I can get them, but that isn't your job. Your job isn't to force somebody to have a relationship with the God that you serve because you want them to serve God. Because you're doing it, because you've had that revelation that this is the right thing to do. You then can't force somebody else to do that in order for you to be in that relationship with that person. And sometimes, like, you know, the fear of not being with that person causes us to stay. The fear of being single causes us to stay. The fear of getting too old causes us to stay. Your value and your importance to God and your worth to God is far more important than your status, than your relationship status. Marriage and a relationship does not define you. And I know that we're kind of living in a generation where we feel like it does. Even like, and just an example, even on Instagram, where people like, they'll dress up and then they'll be like somebody's wife. Well, actually, no, you're not somebody's wife, but you look hot today. And that's okay, sis. But it doesn't mean that you have to put the caption as somebody's wife. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're still hot, and that's cool. So I just feel like we don't have to have these things like define us. Like, we are still, you are still valued, you are still beautiful, you are still amazing, even as a single person. And I know, again, I'll say it again, relationships are a good thing, marriage is a good thing. I desire it myself. I desire to have children. I am here for it. However, I believe that it is only a good thing if it is with the right person. And again, this isn't to say that this is somebody, and this isn't to strive for perfection, like, oh, we should only be with somebody if they meet this criteria. I'm not talking about that, but I'm talking about the fact where you know in your gut there's been many red flags that have been presented to you. You have this gut instinct that is telling you that something isn't right. I'm talking about those situations where you're like, I shouldn't be in this. And if you feel like you shouldn't be in this, then 9 times out of 10 you shouldn't. Okay guys, I really hope this video has been helpful. I'll be really interested to hear your comments. If you have any insight, if there's anything that you've experienced that you maybe want to give some advice to other people, please, like, feel free to comment below. If you like this video, as always, please give me a thumbs up. And if you like my content, then please subscribe to my channel and don't forget to hit that notification bell. Okay guys, so I'll see you guys soon in my next video.